My name is Mary, and today I am going to tell you a story that started with a birthday and ended with a truth that no one saw coming. Imagine turning 50 and hearing your whole family whispering, just wait, something big is coming. And you start to believe, maybe it's a surprise, maybe a party, maybe a trip. But what if that big surprise is actually a secret your wife has been hiding for more than 2 decades? This story is not just about a birthday, it's about betrayal, about love, about a man who thought he knew everything about his life until that one moment when the truth came out and nothing was the same again. And I promise you, the part that shocked him the most didn't come at the beginning, it came right in the middle when he thought he had figured it all out. But I'm getting ahead of myself now. If you like historias reis like this, the kind that fazem você pensa e questionar tudo, enteo já dixa, o like esse inscreve no canal. A gente tá quase batendo nossa meta e só falta você. Aqui no time enteo bora lá, e no finally eu quero saber de você perdoria. O que essa esposa fez comenta aqui embaixo porque eu leo todos os comentários mesmo agora, se prepara porque o que você vai ver hoje é diferente de tudo que já te contram antes. Essa é a história de Daniel e do pai melhor aniversário de vida dele. Daniel was the kind of man who never asked for much. He worked hard, he loved his wife Clara more than anything, and he always tried to be a good father to his 2 kids. Everything in his life was simple and stable. He woke up early, made breakfast, helped around the house, and always made sure Clara had everything she needed. They had been married for over 20 years, and even depoy de tanto tempo Daniel ainda olhava para ela como essa fosse primera vez. He thought he knew her completely, every smile, every silence, every little change in her voice. He believed there were no secrets between them, and for a long time that seemed true. Clara was quiet, kind of type of woman who nunca levantava voz, and always kept the family running like a well-oiled machine. Their 2 kids were teenagers now, and although life wasn't perfect, they had something rare, something peaceful. But everything started to change when Daniel's 50th birthday got closer. It began with little things. Clara started to act more distant, more distracted. She smiled at strange moments, sometimes too forced, sometimes too quiet. Daniel noticed, but he didn't question. He thought maybe she was just planning a surprise, maybe something sweet like she always did. And when he asked, she would only say the same thing again and again, just wait, Daniel, you're going to love it, something big is coming. And with each day that passed, he believed a little more that his life was about to change. It started with the way Clara looked at him, not with anger, not with sadness, but like someone who was holding back something huge, something she didn't know how to say. She would wake up early and leave the house before he did, which was strange, because Clara loved mornings together with Daniel. She stopped cooking his favorite breakfast dishes. She said she was tired, but Daniel could tell something else was going on. Her phone was always on silent now, and she would take it with her everywhere, even to the bathroom, and when he walked into the room, she would hide the screen quickly like a reflex. At first, Daniel laughed it off, thinking it was part of the surprise. Maybe she was organizing something big for his birthday. Maybe she needed to talk to people in secret. But then he heard her whispering one night, her voice low, afraid and careful. He didn't hear what she said, but he heard her cry after the call, and that cry stayed in his head for days. Then there was the night she came home late, her hair wet, her hands shaking. She said it was the rain, and Daniel tried to believe her, but the sky had been clear all evening. The kids started acting strange too. They looked at Daniel like they were hiding something. One night, he heard his daughter ask Clara, "Are you sure we should tell him on his birthday? He might never forgive you." Daniel stayed silent. He didn't confront anyone, he just listened and waited. He thought maybe it was something about money, maybe someone in the family was sick or worse, but deep down, a small voice inside him whispered that this had nothing to do with money or health. This was personal, and it was coming straight from Clara. Daniel couldn't ignore it anymore. Things were not normal, and the little signs were starting to feel like loud warnings. Clara was different, and the house felt heavier every day, like everyone was walking on eggshells. Daniel decided to take a day off from work without telling anyone. He stayed home pretending to be sick just to watch and listen. Clara left early that morning, saying she had errands to run, but she didn't take her usual bag. Instead, she grabbed a small purse and put on perfume, something she rarely used during the day. She looked nervous before leaving and didn't kiss Daniel goodbye, something she never forgot to do. He waited 10 minutes, then quietly followed her by car. He didn't want to believe he would ever need to do something. Asked him, but his heart was beating faster than ever. Clara drove across town and stopped in front of a hotel. She stayed in the car for a few minutes looking at her phone. Then a man approached her car. Daniel couldn't see his face clearly, but he saw them exchange something through the window, a white envelope. She didn't get out. She just drove away like nothing happened. Daniel followed her back home, but his mind was already racing. Later that day, while she was in the shower, Daniel checked her purse. The envelope was there. It was a hotel receipt for a reservation made a week earlier in her name for 1 person, 3 nights prepaid. He didn't know what to think, but one thing was clear: this wasn't about a birthday party anymore. That night his son came into the room to ask a question and accidentally dropped his phone. When Daniel picked it up, the screen lit up and he saw a message from Clara. It said, "Don't forget Friday. It all changes on Friday." Daniel handed the phone back, pretending not to notice. But deep inside, he knew Friday was his birthday and nothing about it felt like a celebration anymore. It felt like a storm was coming and he wasn't ready for it. Daniel couldn't sit still anymore. He felt like a stranger in his own home. He needed to entender, "Okay, estaba conociendo," because the silence was louder than any answer he could imagine. So on the day before his birthday, he followed Clara again. She said she was going to the market, but she turned left instead of right and headed downtown this time. She parked near a small cafe, quiet, almost hidden between two buildings. She went inside and sat at a table in the back. Daniel stayed in the car watching, trying to calm the storm inside his chest. A few minutes later, a man entered the cafe and sat across from her. Daniel's heart almost stopped. It was Lucas, his old friend, someone he hadn't seen in years, someone who had vanished. Without a word, they talked for about 20 minutes. Clara looked emotional sometimes, holding Lucas's hand across the table, and then Lucas reached into his bag and handed her a brown folder. She opened it, quickly flipped through some pages, and then closed it. Clara was crying. Lucas wiped her tears, and they hugged, not like lovers, but like people carrying a heavy secret. Daniel wanted to go inside, ask questions, shout, demand the truth, but something held him back. Maybe fear, maybe doubt, maybe the feeling that what he would hear inside that cafe would destroy everything he thought he knew about his life. He drove back home slowly, his hands shaking. He sat in the living room in silence for hours, trying to prepare himself for the next day, because whatever was inside that folder, whatever was behind those tears, it was coming for him, and he would have no place to hide when the truth knocked on his door. Friday morning arrived, and Daniel woke up feeling like he hadn't slept at all. His birthday had finally come, but it didn't feel like a celebration. It felt like a countdown. Clara acted normal, too normal. She made breakfast. She smiled. She kissed him on the cheek and said, "Happy birthday, love, you're going to remember this day forever." Those words echoed in his head like a warning. Daniel got dressed and walked around the house, pretending to enjoy the day, but his eyes scanned every movement, every whisper. His kids looked excited, but nervous. His daughter avoided eye contact. His son smiled. Too much. Everything felt rehearsed, scripted, like a show that was about to begin. Around 4 in the afternoon, Clara asked him to get ready. She said they had a small gathering planned, just close friends and family. When he walked into the backyard, he was surprised. The whole place was decorated, lights, music, people hugging him, wishing him happy birthday. He forced a smile. He tried to act surprised, but inside he was falling apart. Clara stood up in front of everyone and tapped her glass, asking for silence. Daniel held his breath. She looked at him, her eyes full of something between fear and courage, and then she began to speak. "Daniel, you've always been the center of this family. You gave us love, strength, everything we needed. And today, on your 50th birthday, I want to give something back. But before I do, I need to be honest, because this isn't just a gift, it's the truth, a truth I've kept for too long." Daniel froze. The music stopped. The air around them thickened. Everyone stared, and Clara said, "You have a daughter, and she is here with us today." Daniel's heart stopped. A girl about 24 stepped out from behind the guests. She looked straight at him and said, "Hi, I'm your daughter." Daniel had no words, only silence, and 1,000 questions screaming in his mind. The girl's words hung in the air. Daniel was frozen. He couldn't believe what he just heard. He looked at Clara, searching for answers. She avoided his gaze, tears streaming down her face. The guests were silent, some shocked, others confused. The girl continued, "My name is Emily. I was born 24 years ago. I never knew my father, but my mother always told me he was someone good. When I found Clara, I was lost. I had nowhere else to go, and she helped me find you." Daniel shook his head. "No, I don't remember anything like that. I never cheated on Clara. I was faithful to her always." Clara's voice broke the silence. "I never lied about you cheating, because you didn't. I kept this secret to protect myself and to protect her. But it's time the truth is out." Daniel's mind raced. Everything he thought he knew was crumbling. His world was breaking apart. But this was just the beginning, because the story had one more secret, one more twist that nobody expected. And that twist was about to change everything again. Clara took a deep breath, wiped her tears, and faced everyone in the backyard. "This isn't what you think. Daniel isn't Emily's father. In fact, Emily is my daughter from a relationship before Daniel, and I met years ago. I was young, scared, and alone, and I made mistakes that I never wanted to talk about. I gave birth to Emily, but the family forced me to give her up for adoption. I couldn't tell Daniel because I was afraid he wouldn't understand. When I found Emily again recently, I knew she deserved to know. The man who made my life better, Lucas, the man you saw at the cafe, is Emily's biological father. He never knew about her either. When we decided to tell Daniel on his birthday, it was because we wanted to be honest finally, to start over. Emily isn't a secret anymore. She's family." Daniel stared at Clara, then at Emily. Confusion, pain, and relief mixed on his face. The truth was harder than any lie he had ever heard, but it also meant there was a chance for a new beginning, a chance to forgive and to heal and In that moment, Daniel understood that sometimes the most difficult truths are the ones that set us free. Daniel sat down on the porch alone after everyone had left the backyard. The night air was cool and calm, but inside him a tempest still raged. He thought about Clara, about Emily, about the years he thought were simple, but now had so many layers. He realized the pain wasn't just from being deceived, but from not having had the chance to know that part of her life. He picked up his phone and texted Emily saying, "Thank you for coming. Thank you for giving me a chance to know you. I'm not the father you expected, but I want to be someone important to you." She responded quickly, "I just wanted a chance to be your daughter and to have you in my life." Daniel felt a lump in his throat and smiled for the first time that day. When he returned home, Clara was waiting with a tired but relieved look. They sat together on the couch and talked for hours. They talked about the past, the fear, the future, and what they wanted from then on. It wasn't easy, but they decided to try to rebuild trust together because sometimes the hardest gifts are also the ones that bring the most meaning to life. Daniel learned that family isn't just what we choose, but also what we give. We accept that even after the storm, the sun can always shine again. And that was Daniel's story, a birthday he'll never forget, a truth that changed everything. Now I want to know what you think. Would you have forgiven Clara if you were in Daniel's place? Leave your answer in the comments. I read every single one and love hearing from you. If this story touched you, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me bring more real stories like this one. Also, there is another video appearing on the screen right now if you want to keep watching and discover more incredible stories. Just click it and stay with me. Thanks for being here and see you next time.